like yarns.
Yeah. Whoa, Marshy. You've been here 3 weeks and you think you can get promoted to seat number 1. Wait. Don't get up. David, please, can you do me a favour?
What's going on? Oh, well, it's me putting my place.
The Blues wore them down and then blew them apart.
Those Blues are now, but do you try? For the first time in over a decade, the Western Force have rolled the Crusaders.
Kia ora koutou katoa, welcome to The Breakdown. A pleasure to have your company with us this evening. Jeff Wilson, Taylor Johnson, Justin Marshall on the show. And you might have noticed another guest as well. Yes, that was Olympic weightlifter David Liti, who will be on with us a little bit later on as well. Marshy, you've recovered from that? You're okay?
I have. I feel like I've been put in my place, for sure. Geez, three weeks on the bounce. I thought I could play musical chairs, but quite obviously I couldn't.
I had nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. Jim Kay's producer of The Breakdown, absolutely 100% him.
Okay.
I don't want to kind of, take away from the smoke and mirrors there, Jeff, but actually I think it was you who was putting your hand up to go, me, let me boot Marshy out of his seat. Thank you very much.
I certainly wasn't putting my hand up to get lifted. I'll tell you that for a fact.
I tell you, I did for this weekend, I actually did feel light. He lifted me up with consummate ease. He did.
That's his strength. That's his strength.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's used to lifting big weights.
There is a reason you were chosen for this, Marshy. I'm just going to say, Sky Sport, of course, is the home of the Olympics this year. 96 days to go. We cannot wait. So, David on the show in a little bit. Plenty more to come as well. We've got our Form Super 15 since we've ticked over the halfway part of the regular season. We've also got our list of who you would sign long term based on Super Rugby performances this weekend. But let's just start with the round we've seen first of all, shall we? Because it's been interesting. To say the least. And Marshy, I actually just wanted to start with you, just from a purely emotive perspective. How did you feel watching that Crusaders performance last night?
Yeah, obviously, like many Crusaders supporters and former players, disappointed, but that's been the way this season's trending, hasn't it? So you've got to accept that this team is in a bad place and it's getting worse. So yeah, it wasn't a nice feeling. I must admit, I sat down and didn't feel confident that they could win, but I thought they had enough within them and had the resources to win there, but it was always going to be tough. It's a hard place to play down in Perth, and you're always going to get a tenacious Force side. So, look, it wasn't the unexpected, but it was still another body blow. It really was.
I'm going to say it's great for the competition. I know you don't want to hear that, but last year, I would not have even watched this game. I would have watched the highlights the next morning. I wouldn't have stayed up till midnight to watch the Force play the Crusaders, but I was thinking this could be close, and the Force pulled off what people think they couldn't do, and they beat them, and they played with so much confidence, and that's what happens when the Crusaders are that low on the table. The Force, when they played the Blues, they looked scared. They didn't look as confident as they looked up against that Crusaders team last night. They never actually looked like losing, to be fair, so that was great. I mean, the Highlanders losing to the Reds was also... I wouldn't have watched that either. I wouldn't have watched that either, but again, I watched it, and I love that the Australian teams are doing well. We needed needed that. Everyone needed that.
The conversation was at the bottom of the screen. What does it say? Crusaders have hit rock bottom. Had nothing to do with
I'm just saying I enjoyed
and
watching the rugby this weekend.
And say about the Highlanders, just like they had on the scoreboard, which was nothing. Look, for the Crusaders, there's a lot of things to consider in this performance and what it means. But if I look at the Force, and I have to give them credit, and they've made some significant signings in the off-season, and that started to come to fruition. And when they picked up Kurtley Beale mid-season, that's a really valuable asset into their side. And they looked as though they're a team that can pick up a few more scalps.
Yeah, Nick White, Ben Donaldson both picked up. Kurtley Beale, like you mentioned. Marsha, you've been looking pretty closely at this. I believe you've got some analysis for us.
I have. So Crusaders. Defence. That's what I've had a look at. And ultimately, good Crusaders sides, regardless of being on a rut that this current one is in or not, always defend well. And at the moment, unfortunately, for this side, they are not defending well. And that's what's the hard part of watching them is. So if we're going to have a look at this imagery, this is from line-out. Now, it starts off okay. So as we roll it on, this is just from a standard line-out. So you can see here, this is the setup. Defensively, they've got backs and forwards looking to defend the midfield. Now, they throw a lot of options, do the Force, at the Crusaders here. Now, it's not a bad umbrella. Sevu Reece worries me a little bit, that he's been hooked in a little bit too much, but in general, it's not bad defence. You see the transition runner out the back for the Force. As it rolls on, you can see good defence. They've made their tackles there. They come back onto the right-hand side, the Force. Now, what I want to highlight here is the Crusaders players who are actually on their feet. Now, yes, they're ball watching a little bit, but they've got enough players to defend the threat on the left. As it plays on, again, think about Sevu Reece. Now, as we pause it here, he's been hooked in again. So, unfortunately for the Crusaders, as we roll it on with that narrow type of defence, it's just mandatory hands, Fihaki's in no man's land, and finished by Chase Tiatia. Now, look, ultimately, as much as I know the Crusaders, the key to rugby is teams are going to score points against you. But if you can restrict them from scoring points, then obviously you make it a lot easier, the amount of points you have to score. And at the moment, 2 driving more line-out wins for the Force where they got tries from. To me, leaking points is not helping the Crusaders because they're struggling to score points themselves.
And discipline is leading them to putting them in positions where they're also conceding territory, giving the opposition an opportunity to attack their line. And I think when I look at that, I totally agree with you. The fact that some of their decision-making defensively, but also they're not having the same impacts defensively. They're certainly not having the impact on the ball. And the nature of the way the game's being played at the moment, where there's this emphasis on attack and rewarding the attack, it makes it even more difficult for them. They got penalised for offsides a number of times, under all sorts of pressure. I'll flip it and look at their attack. There is very little momentum going forward. There's very little, I suppose, front foot ball that this back line can operate off. They are getting met at the gain line and they're getting driven back. Now, if you can't carry hard and create momentum for your halfback, first 5, or even multiple carries, you're not putting any pressure on the defence. You're not forcing them backwards. If you're getting slowed down, you're getting beaten at the contact area, there is no post-contact metres being won here. All of a sudden, it's virtually impossible to put good defenders under pressure, and the Force have become a good defensive team.
And the thing on attack as well is the Crusaders of old, their counter-attack was so lethal. You never wanted to turn the ball over in your own 22 because you knew the Crusaders would score. And even you wouldn't kick it back to them either, to their back 3, because their counter-attack was so fluid. They played fearlessly, and they're not playing with that same fearless passion that they used to. I think because it's that in their heads, you know, that they know that they need to score. They need to stick to some structure. The unstructured structured play that they used to play with isn't there anymore. In broken play, they're not as dangerous. They're just kind of reverting to carry clean. And as you say, the carries aren't getting over the advantage line and then the ball gets turned over. So I think, yeah, they're just missing that fearlessness we used to see them attack with.
I wanted to pick you up on that, actually, the fearlessness, because Rob Penny after the game actually spoke about kind of the mental toll, saying, you know, the pressure on them and the confidence factor. He was starting to see those things negatively impact some of the players. Once you get to that stage in a season or in a team, Taylor, where do you go from there?
Yeah, like no one goes out there to lose. They don't want to lose. And I think people are just, you know, they're killing them in the comment sections. I mean, you know, I reference the Highlanders again. They even turned off their comment section because they knew what was going to come towards their players. And look, it's really tough when you are at the bottom, and that's when you just have to stay tight and trust the process, which is such a cliche thing to say, but you just have to trust that your systems are going to pay off and really rely on your teammates.
Just be the Force. They're in the same spot. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were at bottom of the table. but they went out there, they just had a slightly more energetic attitude, and they were more proficient in certain areas, and they won a game where they would have been low on confidence. They would have been getting slaughtered by their supporters, but they found a way. Yes, they are at home, which is a massive advantage, but there's no reason why the Crusaders, yes, I get it, Rob. I get the confidence is low. I get the players are struggling. But you have to be mentally tough enough to find a way.
OK, let's talk Rob, because that is one of the big questions that is being posed at the moment. You look at those comment sections you mentioned, people are baying for blood. Inevitably, a lot of that is going to fall on the coach. Is he the right man at the moment for the Crusaders?
I say 100% yes, because he needs to be given the benefit of the doubt about the whole season. He needs to get the benefit of the doubt when he gets some of his cattle and his stock back, the players who are returning from injury. If they don't make the playoffs, then they'll go through a thorough review, and then they'll have to have the question marks. Because this team, this squad is clearly good enough to make a playoffs in the Super Rugby competition. So I think you'd have to have that conversation there. But for right now, the fact he's got a few games, a couple of games at home in particular, Rebels and Reds coming up. They're critical games in the course of their season. But ultimately, I think where he sits going forward was if they make the playoffs and he'll have a fit and healthier squad next season, I think he should be comfortable and should get the opportunity to go again. If they don't make the playoffs, though, I think that's when the conversation has to be, well, we need to review exactly how this season unfolded.
Yeah, you look at who's still to come back from, from injury. Yes, he doesn't have the cattle from last year, but the players who did return, the Tamaiti Williams, the Scott Barretts, David Harvelis, they're still on the sideline, and they only need 2 wins in the next 6 games to actually propel themselves into that top 8. It's a very tight competition. Yes, they're at the bottom, but everyone has had these tight games, and there's no one here that they can't beat. Like Justin said, they just have to have faith in themselves, because when you look at their team on paper and you look at other teams on paper, they can beat them in certain positions, in certain areas. It's just that belief and then flicking the switch.
They're not traditionally a franchise to panic, and that would be a move of panic, to sack the coach and say it's completely his fault, that all the peripheral stuff is regardless of that, it's your responsibility, see you later, and then it's like you've got to go find somebody else. It's not the way they operate, it's not in their DNA to do that. It's a family, that franchise, and yes, they'll be feeling the pain at the moment, but I'd be very, very surprised if they make a dramatic decision like that.
Just lastly, before we move on from this topic, I just want to read you out the Crusaders' games to come. And I know you've spoken about this a couple of weeks ago as well, but they've got 6 games left. Rebels, Reds, Highlanders, Brumbies, Blues, Moana Pacifica. Do they make the 8 from here?
Yeah, they're very capable of winning all those games, like they have been some games previous to the one they played at the weekend, including the weekend. But yes, they are more than capable, particularly with the majority of them being at home. They haven't played any real games in Christchurch, and what they need is their fans to make sure that they stay behind them. And we know what one-eyed Cantabrians are like. My goodness gracious me. Come on, guys.
Hang in there. We wouldn't be having this conversation had they been the Waratahs. Had they soaked up a couple more seconds with the kick. So, the game, it could go either way. Like, there were games that they could have won in this season that they didn't. So it's not like they've been getting their butts kicked every week, and they haven't. There have been tight contests, so it just hasn't. They haven't had the rub of the green, which is odd for a Crusaders team. Well,
that's what I was going to say. That's the thing. They haven't won those games, though, those close encounters that you would normally expect them to. It'll be interesting to watch for the next few weeks. Anyway, let's move on to the Blues, shall we? Absolutely dominant at Eden Park over the Brumbies. Were you surprised by just how dominant?
Why are we talking about the bottom team in the competition when we've just watched 2 teams over the weekend, 1 and 2, played really, really well? And, I look at the Blues' performance last night against the Brumbies, and I don't think anyone expected this, because the Brumbies were the number 3 team in the competition, had shown some real steel going into this game, but this was a demolition job. And you have to give all of the credit to the Blues and Vern Cotter and whatever he's got them doing in preparation for these games. It's leading to the best defence in the competition, is leading to them dominating up front. I couldn't be more impressed by this, and individuals putting up their hand. This was a surprise.
Yeah, I like Funaki. We've got so many good halfbacks. He's putting his hand up as well. Funaki's really enjoying his time at 9. But when he went to the bin and the Blues scored and the Brumbies didn't, I knew that it was game over from them, because they just played with such courage. They didn't care that their halfback had gone to the bin. But the forward pack were incredible. And kind of what Jeff was just saying, the difference with the Crusaders, that they get over that advantage line. Their carry meters and contact are huge, because they're just big, solid boys, and they're going to work. and it's impressive to watch. It was a demolition job.
It was, and agree, but their messaging as well is consistent. You know, we interviewed Hoskins straight after the game, Vern, Caleb Clark. None of them are saying really anything different from each other. They are all very in tune with their game plan. You know, they were very focused on physicality, carry, clean, you know, quick ruck speed ball, and just go at them tough. And they all knew where they needed to go, the zones they wanted to attack the Brumbies in. So that reeks of really good coaching and really good understanding from the players and the leaders in that team. They are very well drilled. They are methodical, and they are very much a force to be reckoned with.
Let's get a little bit more into that forward pack, somewhat reminiscent of the power that they had in the late 90s. You guys both played against teams, Blues teams, with very good forward packs. How ominous a sign is this for everyone else in the competition?
The late 90s. Mm-hmm. I've got nightmares about the late 90s. In saying that, I was a part of that. I think when you look at what Vern has done, and I'm with you, Marshy, on the fact there's a real clarity about how they can play, but also they know what they've got and they know how to use it. And other teams can't play like this. The fact they've got a number of people who can put up their hand to carry the ball. But then there's a versatility and skill set amongst that forward pack that I think is really important. And Patrick Tuipulotu, I think, is the heart and soul of that forward pack when he plays. They're a different beast at scrum time and carry. But all of a sudden you're seeing what Hoskins Sotutu at Super Rugby level has done really well for the last couple of years. And then their back line is making really, really good decisions on the great work that's being done inside them. So I think about the clarity and understanding of exactly what their roles are, Marshy, Taylor. The fact they know exactly who they are, what they are, and the expectations of them. And then that synergy between them and the back line, where this is the right option, we're going to keep carrying, but then you start getting an offload game going because of this momentum going forward. And these are in challenging conditions. I think, to me, that was what was most impressive. It would have been quite easy to not play. They still played some rugby. So they did it up front, they did it through the middle of the park, they did it on the edges. It was a complete performance.
Okay, can I play bad cop?
Go on then.
We love a bad cop.
Do you?
On the show.
Okay,
Yep.
that's cool. Yeah, don't often play good cop, to be honest, but anyway. But that's against a team that won't take them on physically. The Hurricanes will take them on physically and show when they last played.
You said last week
when they didn't get it all their own way.
You said last week the Australian teams were more physical. They've upped their game.
Yeah,
that was the best Australian team that we've got on this competition.
And they got
right
out-muscled.
And
yep.
they failed.
That.
They failed.
Yeah.
Quick fire question. Who's got the better pack, the Blues or the Canes? Go, quick.
Canes.
Canes.
Blues.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Hey, I also wanted to touch on the Blues.
You can't do that on our show.
I
You can't go willy-nilly left field. Don't give us a chance to prepare.
You need to
Totally
explain
unfair.
why.
I think you'll find
Stick to the paper.
There's one of these.
in
Seriously.
week two, I've become
really?
just as comfortable as Justin Marshall is in week 3. In fact, put me in your seat. Jeff, put me there. It's fine. Now, let me move on. Thank you, because I do want to talk about the defence as well, because I've got a stat here for you. Since they lost to the Canes in round 3, the Blues have conceded 34 points in 5 games. Mathematicians, it's less than 7 points a game. Defence wins championships. You were talking about it with the Crusaders and how it's completely lacking. So what are you seeing and what they are building there?
Yeah, I think we give credit to the forward pack as well, but their backs, their ability to read plays is really strong as well. They all know where they need to be, the midfield, out on the wings, on the edges. Their defence patterns are really strong. Equally, like on attack, their shape is really nice, and you can see they're always in shape. That even on counter-attack, they know what the plan is. And on defence, as soon as they're in that transition period and they go to defence, they're in the right spots. And I think, obviously, after that Hurricanes game, they would have reviewed their defence. But I think, again, they're just a well-drilled team and they're well-connected.
Scramble for me. Right, they scrambled back a couple of times last night, was outstanding. I think Plummer got back, Funaki got back, off-line breaks from the Brumbies. That's the attitude of a team. Never give up, always defend your line, bust to get back on line breaks. That's uncoachable. That's just players wanting to work on defence and get back and defend your line.
Yep, I just think they know who they are right now, and they'll keep doing and playing like that until someone comes up against them and matches them up front.
Yep.
Whether it's the Hurricanes going forward, but I think they're a side, they're a contender. They've been a contender for a few years now, though. Last year, it got ugly when it came down to it. It came in a knockout game. They'll have an eye on what they've got, and they've got a really difficult finish to this competition. 4 derbies before you go into the playoffs. So they needed to get some jobs done early in the competition. They've done that really well.
Now, mark May 11 in the calendar because that is when the Blues take on the Hurricanes, so that is going to be an absolute doozy. Let's move on to the Canes though, because speaking of impressive wins, their ability to go over to Fiji and do what very few teams can do and win there. Yes, it was in Suva, not Lautoka. It was at night, not in the middle of the afternoon, but it is their 8th straight win. Now, the first team to beat the Drua in Fiji this season. Is the Cane train pretty much unstoppable at this point, Taylor?
I think it's important to note that it was at night time because that does make a huge difference when you're in Fiji. But yes, look, they trained well for it, and thank goodness for their facilities. Like if you watched the news articles, they were training in the heat. They were battle hardening themselves because they didn't want to, be shell shocked when they landed. But again, they didn't send over some key players, and they still performed really well. The Drua, they just seem to have a plan for the Drua, because the Drua are always going to be really difficult to handle on attack. They break, but again, the scramble D was really good when it needed to be.
It was. Yeah, like we all gave it the little chuckle under our tops with you've got to go to Fiji and beat the Drua who've won 9 on the bounce. Good luck. But good teams put all that behind them. The peripheral stuff doesn't matter. Made changes as well, which there was a bit of banter about that. Are they taking this a little lightly? Just again, a really well-coached, well-drilled side with players that are competing for jerseys. Guy like Aidan Morgan gets his opportunity, plays really well, Karifi gets a chance in the 7 jersey, just goes and does what he does every week. And players across the board all getting opportunities. O'Reilly, how good was he?
Yeah.
So, they can be very satisfied with what is a very difficult place to go and play and win pretty comfortably, to be fair.
And some of those players have been given an opportunity earlier in the season as well to give them some confidence, and it was a dominant performance. I think they played in Palmerston North. So it's not like they've been on the outer and you've thrown them in the deep end. You've clearly kept them involved. I think it was a really important win for them, the way they went about it. When you get down to 13 men, and you don't concede points, and some of that scramble defence you talked about on their line, and then finding a way to stay in the contest, and then I think just the composure that late in the game, Geordie Barrett kicks that penalty from 40 metres to pretty much ice it. You're thinking to yourself, because you knew the Drua had something in them. If they'd scored once, they could quite easily have scored twice, but they kept that margin just nice and clear. All the things you want to see out of that group, rotating of players, they're looking really great forward pack, by the way. I said who was better the forward pack? Because you put me on the spot.
But
it's one of those things.
You don't get to come back to it and justify it.
I do get to come back to it. I do, because you think about the 2 forward packs and there's nothing between them. And that's
hang on.
Love.
Well, there was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, you had one and you had the other. And if you had time to think about it, you might swap. But I can understand exactly where you're coming from. But I tell you what, I can't wait to see exactly how they go about their next challenge. Brumbies, right?
Yeah.
He'll be hurting, and they need to perform. So we'll see what happens.
I reckon I've had the producers say, let's go to the break now about 5 times in my ear.
So they want to pay the bills. They want to pay the bills, let them pay the bills.
Thank you very much.
Pay the bills.
Stay with us. There'll be much more to come after this, including our halfway stage Super Rugby Form 15. Welcome back to the breakdown, and if it wasn't already, this is where the tension really starts to ramp up, apparently. We were fine before though, don't worry about it, it's fine. That is because, Jeff, stop, it's my time, man.
He said it,
it's
he
my
said
time.
In my seat. He sat in my seat earlier to start the show, so.
It is time for our Super Rugby Form 15. Now the rule is, as I understand it, no players who are injured and out for the season can make the 15. Yep. So that is why you won't see a Cam Roigard in the mix for anyone at this stage. But Taylor, take it away.
Yes, I am up first, and I have gone with an all Hurricanes front row. I saw what they did to the Chiefs when they played last week, and they have all been outstanding, particularly just around the park as well, not just at set piece time, so they don't need any further explanation. These two have been impressive for me. Lachlan McWonnell obviously left the Chiefs to go to the Blues to fill a void. Paddy Toops had been injured, and he's taken that starting opportunity to hands. Yossi, I put him at 6. He has played there because he's moved around that forward pack. Peter Larkai, another outstanding. Hoskins Sotutu, again, has, top try scorer in the competition. Cortez Latima and Damien McKenzie, 9 and 10. Got to go for them. Obviously, no Roigard. Barrett and Proctor have been a formidable midfield duo. We've seen them throughout the season. There's so many Hurricanes players in here. I usually wouldn't think this many. Kenny Naholo and Caleb Clark, two very powerful wingers who are just busting through defenders. And Sean Stevenson, I think, is at fullback because, no one else has really stood out as much as he has for me. But I think Stevenson, is the guy there. So
that's a good side, Taylor, actually.
Yeah.
My side's going to have to try and do very well to take it on, but we'll give it a go. Equally, I've been very impressed with, obviously, the Hurricanes front row and Tyrell Lomax and Xavier Numi. I've gone a little bit left field with Ricky Riccatelli, but I think his consistency and the way that he's playing, he's in the best form of his career. Jamie Hanna, I think when we're looking to futurise and where we need to go in the locking department, I think he's been outstanding in a team that's been struggling, and Tuipulotu's been simply outstanding. His leadership's brilliant. Samipini Finau, for me, is just the out-and-out Jerry Collins type style flanker, blindside, absolutely love him. Yose's been on fire. Billy Harmon in a struggling side, it's really hard to stand out, and I think he just rolls his sleeves up each week and gets stuck in. In the halves, I've gone from TJ Perenara. I think the way that he's come back into the game, his competitiveness, his attitude, and the type of rugby he's playing has been outstanding, and he'd be a good combo with Damien McKenzie. And speaking of combos, Geordie and obviously Billy Proctor have been superb together, and not just in attack, defensively, man. The Hurricanes out in those channels have been great at defending threats. Sevu Reece scoring tries like going out of fashion. Ruben Love has been so impressive at fullback, and for me, Caleb Clark, another one from the Blues, is in the best form of his career.
Like both those teams, love both those teams. I only got a few differences in mind. Interesting how I said the Blues and the Hurricanes. I've got a lot of Hurricanes in my forward pack, funny enough, in the form 15, so this is a bit awkward, isn't it? All right, so the front row, Namia, Olmia, Amua and Lomax. Asafa Amua, his status in terms of his injury, we'll see where he's at, but love the front row. Same as you, Marshy. I think Tuipulotu and Hannah have been fantastic to start the season. Even though Patrick's only played 3 games, the 3 games he's played in. Made a huge, huge difference. Hoskins Sotutu at number 8, I think he elevated after last weekend, last night. Peter Larko, I really love the way he started the season. Took a bit of licence here and moved Braden Yose. I think he's been too good not to get an opportunity in the loose forwards. I believe he can play 6. Let's see whether that might happen in the future. Interesting at halfback, understand with TJ Perenara what you're saying. Really like the inside pairing. Cortez Ratama, whether it's been off the bench or starting, I think he's the future for them starting at halfback. And Damien McKenzie's just been too influential for the Chiefs. Midfield speaks for itself. Barrett and Proctor, we'll talk maybe a little bit more about them. And the outside backs, interesting. I've gone a bit of a wild card here as well. Clark and Sevu Reece forms there, but Josh Morby, as good as Ruben Love has been, I've seen Morby at fullback enough this year. I really like the balance to his game, his counter-attacking option, his positional play is really, really good. Different type of player to Ruben Love, but with his versatility to play in the wing, I've been really, really impressed. So that's probably a little bit left field, but I think good enough right now to start the season.
A few things to pick you all up on there. Let's start with what you alluded to, which was the Billy Proctor part, because all of you had him as your starting centre. Is that a result of his individual play or his partnership with Geordie, or both?
Mine's partnership with Geordie, because you do look at the likes of Rico. He hasn't put a foot wrong necessarily, but I think when you look at the cohesiveness that those two play off, that's why I picked him there. But yeah, we've definitely got other options like Rico, but as a pairing, that was my decision. Yeah,
I pretty much did process of elimination to say, if Rico was out, and obviously Anton's been injured a lot, who slots in there? If it's a crisis, what's that jersey look like? And Billy Proctor to me, and the combination doesn't hurt with the likely 12 for the All Blacks, having synergy, knowing each other, knowing each other's strengths and weaknesses, and the way they've been defending. Like, I know everyone always likes to look at the razzle-dazzle, but for me, defence wins your games as well. So, yeah, that was where I got to with that combo.
Great scramble defender, Billy Proctor.
Yeah.
He just continues to work, continues to read situations really well. Saw a beautiful step off his right foot to accelerate through a gap against the Fijian Drua, which essentially iced the game, I think. It was a beautiful piece of play. I look at him and I like the standard he's setting, but we could, in the last 7 years, if we were to put down our Form 15, there'd be a lot of Crusaders in it. Yeah. Because the team cohesiveness, the way they're playing, the combinations, all of those things add to form. That's what the Hurricanes have got right now, whether it's the front row, whether it's the midfield backs, it's those combinations of players. So I think that's the loose forwards, right? They've got their synergy, they know exactly what each other can do, and that's that balance between Geordie and Billy is really nice.
All right, I started that nicely by giving you someone you could all agree on. Let's look at fullback, because all three of you had different ones. Ruben Love, Sean Stevenson, Morby. What are you each seeing in each of those positions? And feel free to just fight it out. I'll sit back and relax.
Well, I think Jeff described Morby really well. I totally agree. Like, the guy's in good form, so it's like, where does he slot in when you've got to put Sevu Reece and Caleb Clark, who are in the best form of their careers? So you kind of compromise and slot him at fullback because you know he's going to play really well there. So I don't disagree with that decision, because form is form, and that's what we're picking on. But ultimately, for me, I just think when you think of the style of player that Will Jordan is, who's missing out of our game at the moment, Ruben Love really reminds me of him, and he reminds me a bit of Christian Cullen, the way he used to play, like his explosive step that he's got and the ability of him to think about counter-attack first, not to think when he gets kicked the ball, okay, I'll kick it back. It's like, can I open up this defence by running at them and taking on a defender that I can see is compromised? I just love that attitude, and I think his spark and his energy is a big part of why the Hurricanes are so dangerous, particularly on counter-attack.
I picked Sean because he can unleash his wingers really well. He's got a good boot, and he's like the maestro at the back. And without him, the Chiefs are different as well. You know, probably not as much as when we take Damian McKenzie out, but when Sean Stevens is not there, you can tell the difference with their attacking prowess. And so I think he's a very strong contender. But all great fullbacks.
Can I put my hand up then? So
No, you can usually just go.
thanks. All right. Well,
Did you do that at school? I don't think you did it in Matera. So what are you doing here?
I just put my hand up.
I should say, excuse me, Ms. Downs, and then
That's
you
the
may
first time I've ever seen that.
I wanted to ask a question, and I know I'm not the presenter, so I'm like, oh well, but I'm in there now. So anyway, righto. I'm the only guy that picked an out blindside flanker. Do you guys not think that we have got a blindside flanker that can fulfil that position? So you put a number 8 in that jersey.
I don't think we've seen the Sammy Penifine. I think the job description, I don't think we've seen the best of him yet, and I don't think he's in better form as other players I think have played that position. Now, I understand what you're saying. Like, we haven't picked someone who's played out in that there. I haven't, Braden Yosse, but I just think I've got no doubt I think he can play that position. He's a different type of player than, like you say, that Jerome Kano, the Shannon Frizzell player we're trying to replace.
Yeah.
And from that point of view, if in listening to the way you're talking about your team, if they all put on the black jersey right now, the balance of the team looks 100% right. The positions they've been playing and the way they've been playing, it looks like I'm not saying this is the All Black team we're picking, but what I'm saying is that on the form, I like what we're saying. So I understand where you're coming from. I've just decided I want to see this guy, and I think he's capable on his form today. Yeah.
He has played 6 as well, though, you know, for the Turbos and also for the Hurricanes, but in the WhatsApp chat that no one's privy to, I did say Sammy Penifine just missed out for me in that 6th position.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I got you.
Yeah, you know,
I saw it.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat.
Been a lot of chat today. Been a lot of chat. A lot going on. Anything to say?
No one even started on the Highlanders with you, that's fine. Let's go now to who we will be looking at, this in the wake of the Geordie Barrett signing news, at the players that you would sign long term if you were New Zealand Rugby. So we're long term, emphasis on that, all right? So what, 4 or 5 years? Taylor, you go.
Okay, this is my 5 players, and I looked at key positions as opposed to just the key players. 10 is a massive key position, and I chose DMAC, but we probably need to sign another young 10, and I just don't know who that is as of yet. You look at the Highlanders and the Crusaders, and I know Jeff's going to disagree with me, but they're missing a key 10, and they need someone long term, and I don't know who that is. I was close to picking Steven Petafeta, but I wasn't too sure if he is the 10 that they're looking at just yet, but we definitely need one, so DMAC's my guy there. Tyrell Lomax, I mean, front rowers are really crucial. He's someone who is good around the park, good at his bread and butter, which is scrummaging. So I think we need to keep him around long term. Cam Roigard speaks for himself. Everyone, I think, would have picked Cam. Asafo Aumua, I think this time last year I would have picked Samisoni Taukei'aho. But I think Asafo's just gone another level this year. He stood up, no Dane Coles obviously, and he's getting more game time. He looks fit. And then Tupou Va'i, another key position, a lock, an out lock, and he's been good in the competition. He's in the top 10 turnovers won. He's really busy when it comes to around the park, hitting the ruck. So those are 5 that I would lock in purely in key positions that we need to grow teams around.
I like just the explanation there. That's very good. Marshy, for you, did you have any crossover there?
Well, yeah, it's quite hard being put on the spot, isn't it? Because you're obviously thinking about wanting to sign quite a lot of players because there's a lot of talent in this country. But when you get asked to pick 5, yes, I had crossover with Cam Roigard. Ultimately, when I looked at it and thought, right, how am I going to answer this question? I'm going to answer it in a way when even though I'm a very much I want the All Blacks winning every Test match, not World Cups, every single one, and I'm very focused on that. However, these were the players that I thought if we have signed at the next Rugby World Cup, then it'll go a long way to us winning it. So obviously Will Jordan, world class. Mark Talia, he's still in amazing form. He'll be slightly just in his 30s at 32. But obviously Cam Roygaard, that's a tie over from you, Taylor. Tamaiti Williams, I think, is crucial to the stocks in the future, the way he plays the game, and obviously Scott Barrett, who could more than likely be even the captain. So I kind of looked at it in that way, but I'd be really happy if the New Zealand Rugby Union, if they haven't signed those guys up. So just putting it out there.
Have you got some inside oil on the captain?
Not at all.
Oh, okay. Just in case. You mentioned
no,
Scott Barrett being the captain of the All Blacks. I'm not sure.
Well, I love some breaking news.
That's a possibility.
It's
definitely a possibility.
4 years' time, I was saying.
4 years'
so it's not right now.
Okay. All right, because he's one of the 5 I've picked as well, Scott
Okay,
Barrett.
yeah.
I think he's critical. I looked at positions I thought would be really hard to replace if you didn't have that going forward, and he was certainly one of those. Here's my 5. And I think Damian McKenzie is critical. Yes, we've got Beauden Barrett coming back, but he's getting on in years. If you think of 4 years down the track, and to you, you're right about we want to win in the meantime. I think tight head prop is critical. I think Tyrell Lomax has been outstanding. He's been a rock. He's become a world-class player. The Ruben Love one is definitely a now and in the future. He's a guy that's going to continue to develop. You picked him as your form 15. I just love the way his game transcends. The fact you mentioned and compared him to Christian Cullen, that's a high bar, and he's got some of those traits. But I think to me he reminds me of the early Beauden Barrett. Same thing.
Sure.
Ball in hands, ready to go. There's that leadership with Scott Barrett. And then the loose forwards, I just looked at someone I thought, I really like the way Peter Lakai started his Super Rugby season this year. 21 years old. He's got a long and big future in front of him, time to develop him. We've got a lot of guys who are already on contract, but he was certainly one of those. It was an interesting conversation. Now, I didn't have Cam Roygaard or Will Jordan there, and I didn't have Mark Talia. Mark Talia is 28. Wingers generally for the All Blacks don't, and we've got plenty of guys who play in the outside backs. If we talk about Caleb Clark and Sevu Reece and Amoni Narawa and Atini Nano Satura, we've got plenty of guys who can play on the wing. These are guys I was looking at. I don't want a risk going overseas in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of guys to replace.
On that's why I didn't pick any wingers, because we always have a multitude of wingers coming through. Every couple of years there's one that's putting their hand up. So I picked key positions where I think we don't have a lot of rotation. And the reason why I didn't pick wingers is because we have so many good ones.
I did the same at hooker, though.
Yeah.
I didn't pick any hookers for that very reason. We seem to find hookers, But this is just the philosophy of how you see where these players are at right now. But when you start thinking about it, we see it all slightly different. Tells you there's some serious talent, right, that we're looking at.
And to all those 85 other players out there, we want you as well.
Actually, that'd be handy, right? Yeah.
Keep them all.
Yeah.
Next week it'll be the breakdowns list of 10 players, just so no one gets offended and flies the coop. It'll be good. Hey, exciting time for me at the moment because I do get to do my very first trivia question for the show, and it is this. A trivia question for you, the viewers, and you can send in your answers, but we will have the answer after the break. And the question is, which All Blacks prop was named in the 1980 Olympic squad? See that crossover there? Because we're also celebrating the Olympics. David Liti's in studio next.
I'll write something down.
Okay. Oh, Jeff's got a twinkle in his eye. Oh,
Yeah, the blank look is for a reason. I'll come up with something.
The answer to that question, as well as David Liti in the house, coming up next. Welcome back to the breakdown, the answer to the trivia question that we gave you before the break. The question was, which All Blacks prop was named in the 1980 Olympic squad? The answer?
Steve McDowell.
Yep.
Oh,
Did you?
Wrestling. He was a wrestler.
Close.
That's right.
Judo.
Yeah. No,
Close,
I didn't know.
close, but that's on a mat, so that's fine. Yeah.
He never actually made the Olympics, though. He was named in the squad, never made the Olympics because the New Zealand team boycotted. David, this is the part of the show where you nod as if you absolutely knew that. That's what I was doing.
Yeah, I know.
And
You
just
told
go,
me about it too. So.
Oh, what sort of deal are you guys doing, eh? Seriously.
And welcome to the show to New Zealand Olympic
you.
weightlifter David Liti. Great to have you on here. 96 days till the Olympics. Sky Sport, of course, your home of the Olympics. How's all the build-up going?
It's good. Thinking about it, my build-up to the last Olympics, I came out of it a little bit broken a little bit. So we finished this build-up within the next few days, and I actually feel like I'm at my best shape ever. So I'm only excited to build up again for Paris and see what we can do.
When you say broken, was that around COVID or was that something else?
No, I've never actually caught COVID before. I somehow sidestepped that for some reason. But yeah, I came out with a shoulder injury after my last qualifier in Italy, 2020, early 2020. And I was like, yeah, so glad that it was postponed 1 year because I got time to fix myself and build again.
David, I want to ask you, so when you go into the competition in Paris, or you go into a competition, is there a little bit of a psych out with the other athletes around, you know? Because, I mean, you're in a competitive environment where clearly mentally you've got to get into the right space. Yeah. What's your mindset in the back room before you do the big stride out? And when you get out there, what are the things you're focusing on?
When I started going internationally with weightlifting, it was kind of hard for me to understand why I was there. What am I doing? How is this going to end up? And just over the years, I've kind of learned to just be myself. I'm there because I deserve it. I've worked hard to be there. And in 2018 Commonwealth Games, when we were out the back, I decided to have fun. So I had music in my ears. I had 2 songs on repeat. And I was just like singing and, you know, doing what I wanted. And all the other athletes were so serious, they didn't know what to do. And they were kind of just looking at me like funny. And so I guess that kind of played in a part where they were mentally confused and not focusing on their lifting. And yeah, history goes and I won gold and now I'm having fun with what I do.
And they're all out the back with their headphones on.
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing now? Has that changed at all? Has it changed?
No, everybody's still so serious. So, yeah.
In terms of your rugby, how serious were you at your rugby, and what tell everybody what was your position and kind of how did you transition from rugby into what you're doing now?
Rugby, I played a total of 4 years, not complete. I just took up rugby because I wanted to play with my boys. I was one of those kids who just played lunchtime rugby at school in the concrete basketball court and all of that stuff. So we thought, why not? We'll make a team so we can go and play and have fun in the weekends. And managed to play in Auckland 16s teams and trial for the 18s, and unfortunately got injured. And that same time was weightlifting came around. Yeah, so it was hard for me to decide if I wanted to be better at rugby or carry on with weightlifting because I had already made an international team.
Wow.
What teams do you still follow closely? Like, do you follow the teams with your old teammates? You know, because there's some people in the Auckland and the 16 teams who have kicked on, or you know, who do you support? And do you kind of still keep up to date with rugby?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, rugby is still going to be one of the sports that I love. I do see some of the boys that I played with on TV sometimes, and yeah, it makes me happy because they carried on and they chased the dream that we were trying to chase. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Blues. I'm a big fan of Richie Mo'unga as well, so I watch Crusaders sometimes too. But yeah, rugby these days, I actually don't really keep up with many sports. I'm more into boxing than anything else.
Nice. When it comes to your sport, though, can you just, for those of us who are less well initiated when it comes to weightlifting, right? You've got the snatch, you've got the clean and jerk. Can you just talk us through the differences between those and how you actually train for it?
So we got the 2 lifts. The first one is a snatch, is a wider grip from the floor to overhead. It's kind of like as fast as you can, really.
So what's this one here?
That's the snatch. Basically, it takes like 2 seconds.
Oh.
So you train for years on end to snatch 2 seconds, yeah.
What weight would that have been?
I think that was 2022 Commonwealth Games. That was 170.
Is that a bit like what you were lifting today?
I struggled to do the bar for 4, and then I'm looking at that like, wow.
I was actually going to, in a really nice way, ask you your weight because I was after a bit of payback, but I'm thinking I don't think I could get you out of that chair, to be perfect.
Yeah, a lot of people are surprised because, I've got heavy, dense tongue and bone, so I'm currently sitting at 186 kilos. So.
Wow. Yeah. No, I can't get that up.
and the clean and jerk, before Marshy gets any ideas and tries to return the favour, can you talk us through how that works and what...
You can drop it.
So what are your PBs on each of them?
Snatch 185 and clean and jerk is 236.
So there, you know, obviously you're pumped, right? Though, absolutely.
Yep.
When you nail something and you go to the next, one. I mean, that feeling there. What's it like when you succeed on something when you know that you've got 2 seconds to get it right? I mean, that feeling when you get it right.
It's very nerve-wracking when you start because if you missed all 3 of your attempts in each lift, you're disqualified. So you must get at least 1 in each one. And the plan is open up safe, get closer to a PB, and then try and smoke your best. So those are your 3 attempts, and you do that in both. And so when you do hit a PB, it's a relief, and you're happy to, kind of celebrate because you've worked hard. The same with rugby, when you get a win, you have a few after the game with the boys because you deserve it. It's been a long week, and
Here to that.
Some great transferable skills, and will we ever see you, playing some social games after you finish, weightlifting?
I've thought about going back into
team?
rugby, so I'm not sure. It would be fun to go back into rugby, but at the moment,
We're going to the Olympics.
Exactly. Don't worry about that. You just focus on that.
You can do that. Stay right here because we will keep talking to you through the show. Now, though, it is time for Millsy's Moments and filling in for Mills, our very own Goldie.
Brought to you by another Cargill High School alumni, which is where Mills went to when he was younger. We're going to talk about my 5 moments for the Olympics. Now, this is very specific to me. These are not anybody else's. They're the ones, the moments that affected me, because this is controversial, because in the end, you've got to pick 5, and there's been so many great ones, but I'm going to start with the stories that I grew up with, the legendary Sir Peter Snell. That's in 1964 at Tokyo, those Olympics, on the 21st of October. Sir Peter Snell, he does the double, the 800 metres, the 1,500 metres, 2 Olympic golds. Just a wonderful, wonderful moment. And I sort of grew up with that, the track and field. That was the guy that we talked about, had so many legends. So I follow on from that. Who followed on in that tradition? Well, then it's Sir John Walker. And in fact, you think about him in Montreal, 1,500 metres, once again, carried on that great legacy of our middle distance running. Don't think we had Nick Willis later on getting a silver in the Olympics. Just that silver fern, that iconic moment, so many of them. And then I'm going to stay track and field, because to me, when I think of the Olympics, it's track and field and Dame Valerie Adams, back-to-back gold medals in the shot put. And clearly, I was a shot putter growing up, to be fair. That's what I was when I was a lot younger.
Looks like it.
Yeah, looks like it. Technique specialist, I know. Technique specialist. But this was remarkable. Back-to-back golds, how passionate she was for her sport, how inspirational she has been, for me, was just absolutely magnificent. And you see how this New Zealanders around the world, that to me is the Olympics. Now I got to see this man train firsthand in Dunedin, Moana Pool. And if you ever saw Daniel Loader swimming, it was like it wasn't fair. He just was lightning in the pool. And for him to win 2 gold medals in 1996 in the freestyle, glamour events, 200 metres, 400 metres, I think, to me, when I think of the Olympics and what I suppose the pool meant to so many people in so many great countries, but for us to compete at a little old Dunedin at Moana Pool, to go and do that and compete on the biggest stage. Now the last was hard because there was so many, but I went on a pairing that dominated for years, unbeaten for it seemed like forever. 2012, 2016, London, Rio de Janeiro, the men's coxless pairs. These 2 guys just went to work. You talk about a team and synergy. Hamish Bond and Eric Murray, the 2 of them, they were just iconic. They just continued to dominate for years on end. And when I think about that, so for me, those were my 5. And you could talk about the Dame Lisa Carrington. Of course, you've got Hamish Carter, who can forget that? Sarah Ulmer. So clearly I'm wrong and let some people down. I get that, I apologise, but those were the 5 that had an impact on me.
What about for you, David? Is there any one moment that had a real impact on inspiring you?
With Olympics, no. Nah, not really. But yeah, the same as him. Valerie is a big part of the motivational factors that drive me to try and be one of the best athletes to ever come out of New Zealand. And yeah, hopefully live up. It's a big shoe to fill, but yeah.
How special is it? Because none of us have competed in the Olympics, to the best of my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, team. But what is it like to just be in that moment, to know that you are an Olympian? I noticed the rings on your forearms before. Yeah. It must be something really special.
It's like one of those things when, like, same as rugby, every kid wants to be an All Black. You know, when you're in sports, everybody that's in a sport that's an Olympic sport, they want to be at the Olympics. It's the number 1 dream, it's the number 1 goal. So being able to go to Japan for my first one was an honor, it's a privilege to have the throne on my chest, to, you know, support, to represent New Zealand, represent Tonga, represent my family and everybody who supported me. It's a privilege and it's an honor. And I always tell people it's such a blessing to be able to put your heart into one thing and be good at it, because not many people can do that. So when I think about what it is what it takes or what it means to me to be an Olympian, it's a blessing.
Well said. Thank you very much, David. It has been such an honour to have you on the show with us. Plenty to come, of course, next weekend as well, as we go back to rugby, Super Rugby, the next round. All the teams back in action. The bye weeks are over. I'm finding it hard, actually, team, to pick which one is the game of the round. Crusaders, Rebels, maybe?
Game of the round.
Last chance saloon. Game of the round right here on The Breakdown. Been a pleasure having your company with us here tonight on The Breakdown. Have a good night. Ka kite.
Weightlifting has changed my life a lot, especially winning gold at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. They called it an unexpected win because I was ranked 4th coming into this competition. And so when I kind of won, it was a big surprise for everybody. And that changed my life dramatically. I started getting kids shouting at me on the road, kids yelling out, "Oh, David, hi, I'm a big fan." It's one of those things where I'm excited to be out there and to perform and to compete as a weightlifter, because I hope somebody's watching and thinking, man, I want to be like him, and do good for not only for themselves, but for their family and community as well.